Sorry, just enjoying the introductory music a bit too much there. So welcome back. Here we are with another door on the TooFatLardies Advent Calendar for 2021. Christmas, of course, is a wonderful time for games. Families like to play board games, party games, and may even play card games. And cards, of course, are a wonderful mechanism that we use in many of our games. And here, Richard is going to talk to us about his inspirations behind using cards in TooFatLardies games. Let's see if he deals us any aces.
Card hand management is actually something we touched on in the command dice piece that we had a couple of days ago. And really we've been on something of a journey in terms of looking at the way we use hands of either cards or dice in the case of chain of command. Dux Britanniarum was the first rule set where we introduced the concept of card hand management. I mean, I'm sure Nick might tell me that there was something back in that we dabbled with in the dark distant times, but I can't recall it. Certainly Dux Britanniarum is the main one that I think of. We had used cards, of course, right the way through from I Ain't Been Shot Mum, but that was very much about determining the turn sequence. You'd have leaders, you might have units, you might have bonus cards, but the order in which they were dealt would determine only who was activated next. I found myself wanting to use that same system for Dux Britanniarum, which obviously is focusing on warfare in the age of King Arthur and the Saxon invasion of Britain. I wanted to use it because I do feel that leadership and the way in which leaders activate is very much part of that narrative of the period. You are really talking about a period where the people leading your armies into battle really are the big men. They are the leaders of not just the military but also society. Of course, the issue with that period and that shield wall type of warfare is that it can be very bland. I've certainly played Ancients rules in the past where it's literally been a case of lining up our armies, advancing into contact, and then just bashing away with a dice fest, really. It became somewhat bland. It was just an exercise in dice rolling. What I wanted to do was to introduce something of the psychology of war, because these are not regular armies of standing forces. These are armies made up of the farmers who till the fields one day and in the time of emergency will grab their shield and their spear or sword if they're wealthy and join up with their fellows to face that threat. And what we wanted to do was really represent the way armies would meet. And this, you can see this as far back as Stone Age armies, if you like, where the two armies face each other. And the key decisions that the leaders are having to make is, when are their armies ready to make the most effective attack? Giving the commander the job of actually choosing the moment when they do advance to contact the enemy. And much of that is about reading the mood of his men or their men, and that's reflected, that mood is reflected by the cards in the player's hands. The Fate deck in Dux Britanniarum has a number of features. So you've got the cards which all have a purpose, so it might be an aggressive attack, or it might be faster movement, or it might be throwing missiles prior to contact, or it could be rallying or whatever. So the cards do something, but you've also then got the suits. There are two suits. You've got the boars for the Saxons, and you've got the dragons for the Romano-British. And you've also got the Carpe Diem cards, which allow you to play multiple cards in one activation rather than just single cards. So there's a relationship between those cards. There's advantages to having the cards in the right suit. There's advantages to just having all of the cards. They all give you something that is going to enhance what you're able to do. and you've then got the Carpe Diem cards, which will allow you, if you've got a Carpe Diem card and you're about to attack your enemy, or your enemy's about to attack you, it's going to allow you to influence your troops in a positive fashion in numerous ways. So, the issue, therefore, as you cycle through the hand of cards, discarding one and picking up another, is you're trying to look for the right moment. And this is those moments where the armies are shouting at each other and individual champions are rushing forward, possibly to enter into a man-to-man combat, and you potentially got people cutting up the entrails of God knows what, aardvarks or whatever, to encourage the troops by signs from the gods that they are favoured. And running through those card hands, trying to get the best possible card hand to launch your attack, is clearly there's a time pressure there because your opponent is doing exactly the same. So it's a case of making that decision. The moment might not be ideal, you might not have the perfect hand of cards, but it might be as good as you're likely to get for a while, and you certainly want to preempt your enemy to get that attack in before they have got the perfect hand of cards. So Dux Britanniarum really is quite a sophisticated deck hand management system. And we took that forwards with sharp practice, but in a slightly different manner. In Dux Britanniarum, as I say, it's very much a case of the leaders trying to read the feelings and the attitudes and the psychological state of the forces underneath them to choose their moment. With sharp practice, we're talking about the flag cards. These actually, whilst they look different, they're not the fate deck in Dux, but they do actually reflect the same things that are there in those Dux cards. You know, the aggressive attack in Dux Britanniarum is replaced by the pas de charge, which sees the French morale soar as they step out in an attempt to make contact with the enemy, or the British thin red line where they fire and then charge, which is replicating, if you like, the strong arm card and the aggressive charge card in Dux Britanniarum, where you play those two together with a Carpe Diem card, those multiple cards. So what you're seeing is that the options, the command options that you can use in sharp practice by playing your flag cards actually are reflecting pretty much precisely the options that you have in Dux Britanniarum. But because we've moved on and we're in a period of warfare where the troops are drilled troops, they're trained troops, it's not a case of the leaders having to read the room, it's the case of the leaders telling people what to do and choosing the orders that they can issue, the crashing volley, stepping out, very much there to replicate that. And it's the same in Infamy with the Signa cards. But actually Infamy is a more brutal set of rules. The correct use of Signa cards is really the difference between success and failure in Infamy. For the Roman drill and the completely different barbarian orders, they give each side unique advantages which need to be used. For the barbarians, it's a case of building up that fervour, very much, again, mirroring what we are seeing in Dux Britanniarum, but building up that fervour, choosing when to attack, and then making that key decision when to break off in order to reform, because the barbarians are not very good at rallying once they get into combat. They've got that fervour which gives them the initial violent attack when they launch it at the enemy. They want to try and maintain that for as long as possible, but once that has evaporated, their ability to influence the fight is really going to be determined solely by how good the dice are that they roll. But what they need to do at that point in time is break off, pull back, in order to reform and rebuild that fervour to go in again. For the Romans, their choices are a bit more sophisticated because they've got that Roman drill, so they're almost like sharp practice, choosing from a menu of abilities. So when to go into close order, when to brace shields to receive an attack, when to put their shields up to fend off missiles. when to punch shields. One of the least used drill options in the Roman handbook in the games that I've seen playing is actually an absolutely key one. If the barbarians have won the last round of combat, that is the moment when you want to punch shields to break that combat and rob the barbarians of that +2 dice that they would have from winning that round of combat. Once you've broken that combat, they won't get that benefit. So using the entire range of drill options is really, really important for both sides. And of course, the game is designed to be seductive with all those choices that you can make. Should you darken those skies? We're encouraging you almost to fritter away those Signa cards so that when the key moment comes, you haven't got any. That's part of the design brief, is to give you so many great choices of when to use the Signa cards that you spend them before the point when you're actually, their requirement is going to be critical, and there's the point where you don't have any. So with ducks, with sharp practice, with infamy, and even with the command dice in Chain of Command, we've been on a journey of developing the concepts of card manipulation. For ducks, it was enhancing the period feel, giving the correct command decisions to those leaders in what could otherwise be quite a bland form of warfare. In sharp practice, we have a more refined style of warfare with gentlemen leading the other ranks into the action. The other ranks very much being those extras, if you like, in a sharp television program. It's our leaders who are playing those key lead roles, and it's the other ranks who are very much those extras. But it's the ability of the leaders to use their drill manuals, if you like, to get their troops to perform to the best of their capabilities. And then we move on to infamy, where it's a much more brutal set of rules, where not playing your hard to your best advantage really will be brutally punished. So what's for the future? Well, who knows? Card hand manipulation is certainly something that has its uses in the lexicon of game design, and I'm sure at different points in the future we're going to be using it again to allow us to reflect the particular nuances of another period that we want to design a game for.